Most cars barely make it past 150,000 miles before they start falling apart. But what if I told you that with the right habits, your car could last 3, 4, or even 5 times longer? My car didn't just survive, it thrived for 700,000 miles. And I'm about to share the exact habits that made it happen. Car makers and dealerships have consistently misled you. Because of this, most cars never make it to 100,000 meters. I'm going to share 17 brutally honest tips today that will help your automobile reach the 300,000 meter threshold. We're dispelling a network of myths and offering advice that enrages 3D mechanics. The final trick literally just takes a second, but it will save you $5,000 on repairs, so stay tuned until the very end. Trick number 17, stick to the 3K oil rule. Do you religiously follow your car manufacturer's oil change interval? If so, you're slowly, silently, and completely avoidably killing your engine. I've torn apart engines that followed the dealer's recommended 10,000 to 15,000 mile oil change schedule. And what I found wasn't pretty. The inside looked like a kitchen disaster. Thick black sludge caked on every surface like burnt lasagna. The pistons, cooked and scarred. The camshaft, scored beyond repair. The oil passages clogged so badly the engine could barely breathe. Here's the ugly truth. That recommended interval is designed to get your car safely past the 100,000 mile warranty period, not to keep it running for 300,000 or more. In real-world driving, stop-and-go traffic, short commutes, freezing cold starts, your oil breaks down way before the 7,500 mile mark. My shop rule is simple. Change your oil every 3,000 miles if you're using conventional oil, or every 5,000 to 7,000 miles if you're using full synthetic. Sure, it costs a little more in the short run, but a $40 oil change now beats a $4,000 engine rebuild later. Think about it. Oil is your engine's lifeblood. The moment it starts to degrade, your bearings, pistons, and seals all begin to suffer. Every extra mile you push dirty oil is shaving years off your engine's life. But let me tell you, even the freshest oil in the world won't save your engine if you're abusing it every single morning. And that brings us to one of the most common mistakes car owners make. Trick number 16, drive slowly, don't idle. You know that habit of letting your car idle for 10 to 15 minutes to warm it up on a cold morning? Well, that's not warming up your engine. That's killing it, slowly and silently. I've opened up engines that were victims of long morning idles, and the sight would make any car lover cry. The oil was so contaminated with fuel, it poured out like thin black water instead of smooth lubricant. The cylinder walls were scored, compression was lost, and the damage was permanent, all caused by years of idling. Here's the science behind it. After just 30 seconds of idling, unburned fuel starts dripping down your cylinder walls. That fuel washes away the protective oil film, thinning it out until your $40 synthetic oil becomes as useless as dirty dishwater. Want your engine to live past 250,000 miles and beyond? Here's what you do. Start your car, wait 30 seconds for the oil to circulate, then gently drive off for the next 2 miles. This warms your engine faster, prevents fuel dilution, and protects critical components. Did you know oil temperature rises 8 times faster while driving than while idling? That means your car actually reaches a healthy operating temperature much faster on the move. Not only will this method protect your engine, but it'll also save you a ton of fuel, because idling burns gas while doing nothing useful. Now that you've learned how to warm up your engine the right way, let's move on to a trick that saves not just your engine, but your wallet at the gas station. Trick number 15, stop after the pump clicks. We've all done it. Standing at the gas pump, giving the nozzle an extra squeeze or two after it clicks off, thinking we're getting a few more miles out of that tank. Well, that extra squeeze is one of the most expensive mistakes you can make at the gas station. Here's what really happens. Every time you overfill your tank after the pump clicks, you're flooding your car's EVAP system with raw fuel. I've replaced dozens of charcoal canisters that were ruined because of this single bad habit. And guess what? Those repairs aren't cheap. A new canister alone can cost anywhere from $350 to $900, depending on your car. Overfilling forces liquid fuel into vapor lines, killing sensors, clogging valves, and choking your EVAP system. I've even seen fuel pouring out of vent lines like someone popped a gasoline balloon. Your gas tank actually needs empty space to vent vapors into the EVAP system. When you fill it too high, that system gets flooded with liquid fuel, and it's not designed for that. If you want your car to last, remember this simple rule. When the pump clicks, walk away. This single habit could save you hundreds, if not thousands, in repair bills down the line. And now that we've saved your emissions system from an early death, let's talk about another hidden killer in your car, one that's often ignored until it's too late. Trick number 14. Don't follow the transmission fluid myth. Here's one of the biggest car-killing myths I hear. Transmission fluid lasts forever. No, it doesn't. Most drivers completely ignore their transmission until it starts slipping, and by then, it's already too late. Unlike engine oil, transmission fluid isn't topped off regularly. It sits there, sealed in, breaking down mile after mile, and here's the trap. It often still looks clean. Nice and red, no burnt smell. But by the time you hit 60,000 miles, that fluid is secretly full of clutch dust, metal shavings, and varnish. Basically, a cocktail of liquid sandpaper that's grinding through your gears. If you wait until your transmission starts acting up, you're not fixing a problem. You're replacing a $4,000 chunk of metal. My golden rule: drain and fill every 60,000 miles or every 6 years, whichever comes first. If you're driving a hybrid, you can stretch it to 90,000, but don't gamble with it. I've seen rebuilds run anywhere from $3,000 to $7,500, depending on the make of the car. And trust me, you don't want to be that customer. One warning though, never flush an old neglected transmission. If your car's fluid has never been changed and it's already past its service life, flushing it can wash out the sludge that's barely holding everything together, leading to an even faster failure. In that case, stick to a simple drain and refill. And always use the OEM fluid. Toyota WS for Toyotas, Honda ATF-W1 for Hondas, Mopar ATF +4 for Chryslers. Your transmission's health depends on it. Later in this video, I'll share another trick that'll make your transmission run like new. But first, let's deal with a bad driving habit that's draining your wallet every time you hit the brakes. Trick number 13, coast early to save brakes. Most drivers treat every stoplight like it's the finish line of a race, hard braking at the last second. But what you don't realize is that every panic stop sends your brake rotors through 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit heat spikes. That heat warps your rotors, glazes your pads, and boils your brake fluid. All of that adds up to a $900 repair bill that could have been avoided just by coasting earlier. Here's a simple rule. Keep your eyes up, watch the traffic ahead, and let your car naturally slow down whenever possible. Smooth braking saves your rotors, saves your pads, and saves you money. Think about it. Brakes aren't cheap, and replacing them frequently because of bad driving habits is like throwing cash out the window. Plus, smoother braking gives you better control and keeps your passengers more comfortable. By coasting early, you're not only extending the life of your brake system, but also improving your fuel efficiency. Hard braking wastes the momentum your engine worked hard to create, momentum you paid for in gas. Do you want long-lasting brakes? When going downhill, apply engine brakes, slow into stops, and ease off early. This small change in driving technique can save you hundreds of dollars each axle and double the life of your rotors and pads. Choose high-quality parts when it's time to replace them. Are you a Subaru driver? Make use of authentic Subaru or Abano pads. Do you own a Toyota? Follow OEM or advise. Trick number 12, flush coolant before it warps. Most drivers don't realize just how fragile modern engines are. Did you know that today's aluminum cylinder heads can warp at only 230 degrees Fahrenheit? That means even a single overheating incident could spell the end of your engine. Take the case of a Tacoma owner who thought his truck could tough it out. He ignored the rising temperature gauge for just 8 minutes. The result? A blown head gasket and a repair bill of $3,800. And here's the harsh truth. Once the needle hits red, you're already gambling with your engine's life. Here's your survival rule. If the temperature gauge creeps into the red zone, pull over immediately, shut the engine off, and call for a flatbed tow. Don't push your luck trying to limp home. Don't pray it cools down, because it won't. A few extra minutes of driving on an overheated engine can turn a $150 tow bill into a $5,000 rebuild. If you want your engine to stay healthy, follow this routine. Flush your coolant every 3 to 5 years, depending on the type your car uses. Always keep the coolant level checked at least once a month, especially before long trips or extreme weather. And never mix different coolant colors. Red, green, yellow, blue, clear. They're not just different dyes. Each formula has its own chemical mix and additives, and combining them can trigger chemical reactions that corrode your water pump, ruin your gaskets, and clog your radiator like a science experiment gone wrong. Use exactly what your manufacturer recommends. Not close enough, not the one that's on sale. Cooling systems are engineered to work with specific types of coolant, and using the wrong one can shorten your engine's life dramatically. Remember, once your engine overheats badly, it's not just a gasket at risk. You're looking at warped heads, cracked blocks, or even a seized motor. And those repairs can easily hit $4,000 to $6,000. So take this seriously. Flushing your coolant on time isn't just maintenance, it's engine insurance. Trick number 11, check coolant leaks. If you find yourself topping off coolant every week, you're not maintaining your car. You're babysitting a slow, expensive death. Coolant doesn't just vanish. It doesn't evaporate under normal conditions. If it's low, it's leaking somewhere, and that leak is your car screaming for help. I've seen too many drivers ignore this. They'll keep topping it off for months while a silent head gasket leak slowly destroys their engine from the inside out. By the time the check engine light comes on, or white smoke starts puffing from the tailpipe, it's often too late. The damage is already done. Leaks can come from obvious spots like a cracked radiator, worn hoses, or a failing water pump. But some of the worst leaks are hidden. A failing heater core can quietly soak your floor mats without you noticing. A small head gasket leak might vent coolant out through the exhaust, never dripping a single drop under the car. Here's how you outsmart these sneaky killers. Do a pressure test on the cooling system. Start with a cold engine, pump it up to the system's recommended pressure, and watch the gauge. If it drops, there's a leak, even if you can't see it. Blindly topping off coolant without finding the leak is just buying time, not safety. That's like bailing water from a sinking boat without patching the hole. Check under your car for puddles, keep an eye on your floor mats for dampness, and watch your exhaust for sweet-smelling white vapor that's often coolant burning off. Catching these leaks early can save your engine and your wallet. And while we're talking about damage you might not notice until it's too late, let's move on to a mistake that's costing car owners thousands every year: overloading your vehicle. Trick number 10, dump the junk. Here's something most SUV and crossover owners don't think about. Your SUV isn't a dump truck. Every extra 100 pounds you haul adds 1,000 pounds of stress during a hard stop. That strain doesn't just slow you down, it wrecks your suspension over time. At my shop, I've replaced sagging springs, blown shocks, and bent control arms on vehicles that were never designed to carry half the junk people cram into them. One customer loaded his compact crossover with over 800 pounds of tools for a weekend side job. 2 months later, the rear shocks were blown, the tires were scalloped, and the alignment was so far off it shredded his brand new tires. The damage? $1,400 in suspension repairs, and that didn't include the cost of replacing those ruined tires. Before you overload your car again, check the gross vehicle weight rating (GVWR) on the sticker inside your driver's door jamb. Subtract the car's curb weight from that number, and you'll know your actual payload capacity. And remember, passengers count too. 4 adults plus luggage can max out a midsize SUV faster than you think. Overloading your ride doesn't just ruin its handling and ride quality, it tears apart your suspension from the ground up. Carrying unnecessary weight also kills your fuel economy. Every extra 100 pounds can drop your mileage by 1 to 2%, which adds up quickly over time. Want your suspension to last? Travel light. Remove those old boxes, sports gear, and random tools you haven't touched in months. If you don't need it, don't carry it. And if you notice your suspension starting to groan or your car sagging lower than it used to, don't ignore it. Addressing it early can save you from replacing costly shocks, struts, and control arms later. Coming up next is a habit most people overlook until it's too late, and it's one that could save your steering and suspension from an early, expensive death. Trick number 9, catch weird sounds early: ticking, clunking, whining, squealing. If your car suddenly sounds like it's auditioning for a horror movie, don't drown it out with the radio. That sound is your car's cry for help. Every strange noise is a warning signal that something is about to fail, and ignoring it only makes things worse. I'll never understand how some drivers hear those sounds and just shrug. I say it all the time in my shop. If you can ignore it, you don't love your car. A simple $40 squealing belt that gets overlooked? I've seen it escalate into a $1,200 alternator failure because the belt slipped and overheated the alternator bearings. A faint clunking noise under the car? That was a failing CV joint on a customer's sedan. He ignored it for months until it snapped during a turn, taking the entire axle with it. And then there was the guy who dismissed a light ticking sound coming from under the hood. Turned out his oil level was critically low, starving the lifters and causing metal-on-metal wear. By the time he brought it in, we had to do a full engine teardown. Here's the trick to saving yourself thousands. Don't ignore noises, track them. Write down when and where you hear them. Is it during cold starts or only when the engine's hot? Does it happen while accelerating, braking, or hitting bumps? Every detail helps the mechanic find the source faster, and early fixes are often surprisingly cheap. A car that's whispering today might be screaming for thousands of dollars tomorrow. Remember, the sooner you catch the sound, the smaller the bill. Trick number 8, stop riding the clutch. This one's for all the stick shift heroes out there. You know who you are, the ones who rest a foot on the clutch pedal while cruising, thinking it's harmless. Here's the reality. That harmless habit is quietly burning your clutch to dust. I've seen clutches roasted to the core in as little as 40,000 miles, all because the driver couldn't keep their foot off the pedal. That's a $1,200 to $1,500 repair bill for one lazy habit. Here's what's happening. Even the slightest pressure keeps the clutch partially engaged. That partial engagement generates friction and heat, wearing down the clutch disc and scorching the flywheel. Over time, you're shaving thousands of miles off your clutch life, one red light at a time. If you want your clutch to last well over 120,000 miles, follow this simple rule. Keep your foot completely off the clutch unless you're actually shifting. At stoplights, put the car in neutral instead of holding the clutch down. And if you're on a hill, use the handbrake to keep from rolling back instead of riding the clutch. These small habits can easily triple your clutch's lifespan and save you thousands in repairs. And even if you drive an automatic, don't tune out. There's a fuel-saving mistake almost everyone makes that can destroy a crucial component deep inside your car's fuel system. Trick number 7, follow the quarter tank rule. I get it, gas prices are painful, and sometimes you're just trying to stretch what's in the tank until payday. But running your car near empty isn't just inconvenient, it's lethal to your fuel system. Here's why. Your fuel pump sits inside the tank and relies on gasoline to keep it cool and lubricated. When you regularly run your car close to empty, that pump starts sucking in hot air instead of fuel. Without enough fuel around it, the pump overheats, dries out its seals, and eventually burns out. I've replaced countless fuel pumps that died before hitting 80,000 miles simply because the owner loved driving on fumes. That's an unnecessary $600 to $800 repair that could have been avoided. But that's not all. Running on empty also stirs up the sediment that settles at the bottom of your gas tank. Over time, this grit gets sucked into your fuel filter and even into the injectors, leading to rough idling, loss of power, poor acceleration, and, if ignored, serious engine damage. Want to keep your car healthy and your wallet safe? Always keep at least a quarter tank of fuel in your car. This isn't about keeping the tank full, it's about keeping your pump submerged in fuel, cool, and lubricated. I've had customers ask, what's the harm in letting the gas light come on every now and then? Here's the answer. Every time you run it low, you're gambling with your pump's life, and replacing it means pulling out the fuel tank, something no mechanic charges cheaply for. Keeping your tank above that quarter mark also means you're better prepared in emergencies, like unexpected traffic jams, bad weather, or detours when gas stations aren't nearby. If saving fuel is the reason you're constantly running on empty, I've got something for you. In my video, 9 Fuel Myths Stupid People Fall For, I expose the so-called gas-saving tricks that waste your money and even damage your car. Trick number 6, upgrade to quality plugs. Here's a lesson too many drivers learn the hard way. Spark plugs are cheap, but engines aren't. I've pulled spark plugs that were so worn the electrodes were barely even there, burned down to stumps. The damage from neglected spark plugs is no joke. Worn plugs can lead to weak sparks, which cause misfires. Misfires overheat your catalytic converters, burn out ignition coils, and in severe cases, can even melt pistons or cause detonation in your cylinders. I once tore down a 2.5-liter Altima engine that failed completely because the owner assumed their so-called 100,000-mile iridium plugs were good for life. They weren't. By 40,000 miles, they were fouled and misfiring. Yes, iridium plugs like NGK or Denso can last up to 100,000 miles under ideal conditions, but real-world driving is rarely ideal. Short trips, cold starts, in direct injection engines often foul plugs much sooner. I recommend inspecting or replacing them every 60,000 miles, especially if you notice rough idling, sluggish starts, or a drop in fuel efficiency. Want your engine to last? Stick with quality OEM or premium brands. NGK Iridium 9 or Laser Iridium, perfect for Hondas, Toyotas, and Nissans. Denso Iridium TT, excellent for Japanese imports and hybrids. Bosch Double Iridium, great for European models. Motorcraft or AC Delco, OEMs, best for Fords and GMs, never go cheap aftermarket here. Fresh, quality plugs every 60,000 to 70,000 miles can help your engine run smoother, cleaner, and cooler. And I've seen cars hit 300,000 miles trouble-free just by sticking to this habit. On the flip side, I've seen engines fail at 130,000 miles because someone let a quick lube shop throw in cheap, knockoff plugs that couldn't handle the heat. Bottom line, $60 worth of spark plugs can save you thousands in repairs and keep your car running like new for years. Trick number 5, do the engine mount death test. Most people think engine mounts just wear out quietly. Nope, they don't just vibrate. They slam your frame thousands of times per minute when they go bad. I learned that lesson the hard way. I ignored a soft thump under the hood for weeks. I thought it was an exhaust rattle or just the car aging. One morning, I fired her up, shifted into drive, and the whole dash started shaking like a jackhammer. The culprit? The front mount had split clean in half. I caught it just in time, before it cracked the exhaust manifold, but it was a close call. That's the thing about mounts. They fail sneaky. You won't hear an explosion or see a warning light. Instead, you'll feel little signs, like the steering wheel vibrating at idle, the car lurching forward when you shift, or gear changes that feel like you've been rear-ended. By the time you notice all that, the damage is already spreading, twisting axles, stressing transmission mounts, even warping brackets. Here's how you catch it early. Do the death test. Foot on the brake, shift into drive, and rev the engine to around 2,000 RPM. Watch the engine. If it jumps more than an inch, that's not just a little movement. That's your mount screaming for help. Replace them before they start tearing into everything else. Always use quality OEM or heavy-duty replacements. Ancor is solid for budget-friendly OEM mounts. DEA or Westar are reliable for daily drivers. Rain Automotive works great for European models. If you're modded or just want it bulletproof, go with Torque Solution or Innovative Mounts. A $120 mount replacement today can save you from a $1,500 drivetrain disaster later. I've seen people ignore bad mounts until their engine was practically dancing under the hood. Trust me, it's not worth the risk. If you want a smooth ride in a healthy car, don't wait for that jackhammer shake. Catch it before it gets ugly. Trick number 4, rinse the undercarriage. Most folks think car washing is all about shiny paint. Nope. Washing only the top is just vanity. Ignoring the undercarriage is a slow-motion death sentence. I've raised cars on the lift that look showroom new on top but were rusted to crumbs underneath. I once poked a solid frame with a screwdriver, and it went straight through like cardboard. I've seen brake lines eaten alive by rust, gas tanks leaking like sieves, control arms that looked like breadsticks left out in the rain, and the worst part? Most of that started after just one winter of salted roads. People think rust takes decades to form. Wrong. Salt, rain, and moisture can start the corrosion chain reaction in a single season, and once it starts, it spreads for life. There was a guy with a 2012 F-150. Clean paint, shiny wheels, looked perfect. But underneath, the brake lines had rusted so bad they snapped while towing his camper. He nearly lost control on the highway. That's the danger of neglecting the underside. The fix is simple. Use a high-pressure hose or go to a car wash that offers undercarriage sprays. Do it at least monthly during winter and weekly if you live in snowy or coastal areas. Even during rainy seasons, road grime traps moisture like a sponge, feeding rust. You're not just cleaning dirt. You're fighting for your car's structural health and your safety. A few minutes with a hose can save you thousands in repairs and keep your ride roadworthy for years. Trick number 3, question every urgent repair. This one will save you hundreds, maybe thousands, over the life of your car. I've been on the inside. I know the games some dealerships and shops play. You go in for a $50 oil change, and you come out with a $1,400 estimate and a pounding headache. I've sat in meetings where service writers were literally trained to upsell, to push fuel injector cleanings, brake flushes, throttle body services, most of which weren't necessary. I even had to fire one guy who tried to convince a customer that their brand new Corolla needed a throttle body cleaning at 5,000 miles. Here's the truth. They're not paid to protect your car, they're paid to hit quotas. Most modern cars don't need a $400 fuel system flush at 30,000 miles. You don't need your spark plugs re-gapped on iridium tips. And if they tell you your brake fluid is black, ask to see it. 9 times out of 10, it's perfectly fine. Want to protect yourself? Get a second opinion from an independent shop or a reputable mobile mechanic. Ask for photos or videos of the issue. Request the exact spec or manufacturer guideline that justifies the repair. Never approve work blindly. That's how you end up funding the dealership's Christmas party. Knowledge is power. Question everything that sounds suspicious, and you'll keep more of your hard-earned money in your pocket where it belongs. Trick number 2. Scrub battery terminals. Regularly, you'd be surprised how many dead car emergencies come down to dirty battery terminals. Corrosion is a silent killer. It doesn't matter if your battery is brand new. If the terminals are caked in white or green crust, your starter can't get the juice it needs, your alternator overworks, and your electronics suffer. I had a customer who nearly dropped $900 on a new starter because her car wouldn't start. I popped the hood and found half an inch of corrosion choking the terminals. 10 minutes later, with a wire brush and a baking soda mix, the car fired up like new. Here's what I recommend. Every 3 to 4 months, pop the hood and check your battery. If you see fuzz or crust, clean it immediately. Use a baking soda and water solution or a dedicated battery terminal cleaner. After cleaning, coat the posts with dielectric grease or use a terminal protector spray. That seals out moisture and stops corrosion cold. Oh, and one warning. Don't just yank the battery cables without checking your car's manual. Some vehicles need the radio code or have sensitive electronics that reset when disconnected. A little care now saves you a lot of headaches later. Trick number 1. Engage the e-brake. When parking, this one might shock you. Most drivers think the P in their automatic shifter is enough to hold the car. It's not. That's a tiny part inside your transmission called the parking pawl. A small metal finger that locks your gears in place. I've replaced dozens of shattered parking pawls. Why? Because drivers park on a hill, skip the e-brake, and let that little piece of metal hold the entire weight of the car. Thousands of pounds pressing on a part the size of your pinky finger. Eventually it snaps. When it breaks, your car can roll away on its own. Plus, fixing it isn't cheap. We're talking $2,500 to $3,000 for a transmission teardown. And all that damage because someone didn't use the brake that's literally called the parking brake. So here's the golden rule. E-brake first, then shift into park. Uphill, downhill, even on flat roads, make it a habit. You'll save your transmission, your wallet, and maybe even your car from rolling away into someone's bumper. Final words. Now that you know these 17 brutally honest car-saving tricks, you're already way ahead of the average driver. These aren't myths or gimmicks. This is hard-earned experience from years in the shop. But there's still one more thing you need to know. How to protect yourself from the scams hiding in plain sight. In my next video, I'll expose 13 mechanic scams that almost everyone falls for, and how to avoid being ripped off.